At what point are you going to rise up? You don't have water. Like, how worse can things get? You don't have water. You don't have electricity. You don't have gas. Like, what are you waiting for? Because at the end root of this is death anyway. You're probably going to die at some point from hunger or from lack of water or from freezing to death because there's no gas. So you might as well come to the streets, be brave. If 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, 10 million people all across Iran get out into the streets and protest, and we have, international support and, maybe America helping us with taking out of Khamenei, there's every chance that the regime can be overthrown, and I stand 100% behind the Iranian people. I really hope they do it this time, because this is the moment. I thought the moment was when Trump hit the nuclear facilities, but it didn't quite happen then. But I think now people are just sick and tired of it, and maybe this time could be the last.
I hope so. I very much hope so. And I agree. I think the only significant change can come from within, but they need international support.
Thank you.
You know who never stood with Iranian people in their struggle against the brutal mullah regime? Not the Palestinians, not Pakistan, Syria, Egypt, Lebanon, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Yemen, Iraq, Turkey, nor any of the other 57 states of the UN Muslim bloc. Some of these regimes may dislike the mullahs, but none supported Iranian women when it mattered. Nor did Russia, China, Venezuela, or the anti-imperialist woke freedom fighters here in the West. The list is long. You know who stood with the Iranian people? Israel. Why? Because Israel is the only democracy in the region. It is the only successful case of decolonization by a regional minority that built a sovereign state grounded in democratic principles and universal human rights. The others are illiberal regimes. Some are ideologically aligned with the mullahs occupying Iran. Others are bound by money, power, or mutual interest. Turkey, for example, once a secular republic, is now sliding back into the darkness of caliphate fantasies. But the bond between the Jewish people and Iran long predates Islam and the mullahs. From the Exodus to Cyrus the Great, this relationship is ancient, civilizational, and real. After the fall of the Ayatollahs, that shared history can become the foundation of a new Middle East and bring security and dignity to the region's marginalized minorities, the true minorities: Kurds, Zoroastrians, Druze, Assyrians, Coptic and Maronite Christians, Hindus, and Baha'is. Today, these indigenous communities are persecuted, displaced, and brutally slaughtered by Islamic militias and regimes. However, regime change in Iran is happening, and it will trigger major global shifts.
Baby, just slip a sable under the tree for me. Bending off with
این آخرین نبرده! این آخرین نبرده! این آخرین نبرده!
What is your plan? What is your role in this? Do you have like a set of plans?
Well, it's truly the campaign is a 5-point plan that involves 5 major components. The first one being how can we strengthen the ability of our fellow compatriots at home in their fight to liberation, which brings in the role, a critical role that the diaspora can play in bringing more attention to the subject of how we can encourage foreign governments to be in support of that campaign by means of not only maintain the pressure on the regime by a policy of maximum pressure, but have parallel to that a policy of maximum support. And the diaspora can play a great role having influence on legislators and decision makers in their respective countries in where they the Iranians in England with the British government or in Germany and so on and so forth. Understanding that the path to Iran's salvation and what will happen post-regime collapse, when and how it will happen, the timeline is difficult to predict, but let's say it is inevitable, and we already see signs of defections to be the beginning of the end and so forth, not to mention the fact that the regime is at its weakest now, ever since its inception.
They've lost Syria.
They lost their proxies, they lost Syria, and of course the economic situation is always one of the critical writing factors as to when is it that society finally will say, this is it. So the second aspect is to, again, in terms of calling upon Western governments, particularly the European governments, who I believe are behind the curve as far as where the Iranian people are, and are still in the mindset of status quo negotiation as opposed to let's move to the ultimate solution, to convince them that this is the better approach because that other approach has failed and time is of the essence, particularly if the argument is, well, is it going to escalate to more conflict? Well, it's precisely for that reason that before we get to that point, we now have a window of opportunity, which is unique, and we should utilize that window of opportunity, not only to avoid an escalation of conflict, but to have a resolution to what is the ultimate solution, which is a change of regime in Iran.